Dr. Celis Ray stood before the gleaming control panel, his eyes scanning the latest data on the holoscreen. His heart pounded with anticipation. He had spent years working on this project, a mind control serum capable of unifying the galaxy's disparate civilizations under one peaceful banner. The serum was designed to eliminate aggression, rebellion, and conflict by subtly adjusting the neural pathways of any sentient being. It was supposed to bring about a new era of peace, an era free from the cycles of war and distrust that had plagued the galaxy for centuries. The Federation had tested the serum on numerous alien species, Zarin, Virex, and Yildrain, and the results were astounding. Rebellious species became docile, aggressive cultures softened, and conflicting societies began to cooperate. The serum worked as promised. The hope was that with the right guidance, humanity too could embrace the serum's potential and bring peace to the galaxy. But Celis couldn't shake the nagging feeling that something was off. The serum was too powerful, too controlling. His colleagues, especially the leaders of the Federation, were blind to the ethical concerns. They viewed it as a tool, a means to an end. But Celis feared the consequences of playing with sentient minds, afraid that the serum might strip away what made those beings truly alive, their autonomy, their will to choose their path. It was his colleague, Dr. Nadia Laverne, who pushed him further into the murky waters of the unknown. Nadia had been one of the earliest advocates for using the serum on humanity, claiming that humanity's unique emotional depth and moral complexity made it the ideal test subject. Silas had always been cautious, but Nadia's passion and the Federation's pressure wore him down. After all, if the serum could work on humanity, it could change the fate of the galaxy. It could be the key to uniting all species in peace. The decision was made. Against his better judgment, Silas agreed to test the serum on a human subject. A volunteer from a nearby settlement on Kael'thar, an isolated colony with a history of internal strife, stepped forward. The subject was a man named Felix Tanner, an average citizen with no extraordinary background. Felix's personal history of minor criminal activity made him an ideal candidate. If the serum could control someone like him, it could control anyone. Silas's hands trembled as he prepared the serum. He glanced at Felix, who sat on a sterile examination table, awaiting the injection. Felix seemed calm, though there was an edge of nervousness in his eyes. The room was quiet, save for the soft hum of machinery and the steady beep of medical monitors. Silas could hear his own heartbeat pounding in his ears, but there was no turning back. This was it. This could change everything. With a swift motion, Silas injected the serum into Felix's bloodstream. For a moment, nothing happened. The minutes stretched out in silence, and Silas watched Felix closely. But then, something began to shift. Felix's body tensed, his fingers gripping the edges of the table, and his eyes, once dull, seemed to sharpen. His pupils dilated, and his gaze locked with Silas's. The change was immediate and unsettling. Felix's mind was not subdued as the serum was designed to do. Instead, the opposite happened. His thoughts seemed to become clearer, more focused. His heart rate quickened, but it wasn't from fear, it was from a surge of energy, of awareness. Felix suddenly stood up, his movements fluid, almost predatory. Silas took a step back, alarm spreading through his chest. This wasn't the effect they'd expected. Felix's body was responding, yes, but the results were far beyond anything anyone could have anticipated. Felix's voice broke the silence. "What is this? What have you done to me?" Silas struggled to find his words, his mind racing. "Felix, the serum. It's supposed to make you compliant, calm." But Felix's eyes flickered with something else now. "You want to control me? To strip away everything that makes me who I am? I'm not your puppet. Not anymore." The change was not physical, but something in Felix's demeanor had shifted. His tone was steady, but there was an unshakable confidence in his voice. He looked at Silas, not with fear, but with something more powerful: moral clarity, a deep understanding of the wrongness of the situation. Felix spoke again, his voice firm. "You didn't just control me, you've unlocked something within me. I understand everything now. I see what you're trying to do, and I won't be part of it." Silas stood frozen, grappling with the implications of what had just happened. The serum was supposed to create obedience, not independence. Not strength. Not clarity. Felix's hand clenched into a fist. "You've made a mistake, Dr. Ray. You've underestimated what humanity is capable of. I'm not a weapon for you to wield." It was in that moment that Silas realized the true nature of his discovery. The serum had amplified something within humanity that no one had anticipated, something that had always existed, hidden beneath the surface, but had never been unlocked. The ability to resist, to push back against oppression, to think not just for survival, but for something far deeper: freedom. The Federation's hope to control and pacify humanity was shattered. The serum's unintended effects had set humanity on a new path, one that no one could predict. And Silas, in his desire to create peace, had unwittingly unleashed the very force that would make peace impossible to control. What followed would be a series of unpredictable events, an unraveling that would stretch across the galaxy, and Dr. Silas Ray was now caught in the middle of a revolution he had never seen coming. Dr. Silas Ray sat at his desk, staring at the holoscreen, his mind racing with the implications of what had just happened. Felix Tanner, the first human subject to be injected with the mind control serum, had not become the compliant, passive subject he had expected. Instead, Felix had gained an unexpected strength of mind. His resistance to the serum was not only unlike anything seen in the alien subjects, but also seemed to amplify his willpower and intelligence. Silas had hoped that humanity would be the final test, a model of how the serum could be used to pacify any species. But Felix was a walking, talking contradiction to that vision. The Federation's initial reaction was one of disbelief. They had believed that humans, with all their historical violence and division, would be the perfect candidates for this serum, a species that needed to be subdued for the greater good of galactic peace. But now, humanity was showing an uncanny ability to resist, to break free from the serum's influence. And that made the Federation nervous. The pressure on Silas to fix the formula came quickly. The Federation's leaders were furious. The serum was their ticket to an easy, quick solution to galactic conflict if it could be made to work on humans. They could use it to pacify the more aggressive species. But now, instead of creating docile humans who could be molded into peaceful, cooperative beings, it had brought out something different: humanity's innate resistance, their drive to fight back, to preserve their autonomy. It was a trait that no one had anticipated. The more test subjects were injected with the serum, the more unpredictable the effects became. Humans seemed to resist the serum more effectively, even altering its effects in ways that no one could explain. Silas's own creation was slipping from his grasp. The serum, instead of controlling minds, was igniting a force within humanity that was completely beyond his understanding. What had started as a means of peaceful unification had now turned into an unpredictable catalyst for rebellion. Silas was caught between the pressure from the Federation to fix his formula and his growing sense of unease about the unintended consequences of his discovery. He began to see the serum for what it really was: a dangerous tool. Its ability to enhance human intelligence, defiance, and resistance could very well lead to a new, uncontrollable order. The serum might not simply unify species, it could break the power structures that had existed for millennia. Humanity wasn't just resisting the serum, they were transforming because of it. One evening, as Silas worked late in his lab, Dr. Nadia Laverne, his longtime colleague and mentor, entered. She had been following the situation with growing concern, and she had become increasingly vocal about the dangers of continuing with the serum. "You've created something," Nadia said quietly, "something that could spiral beyond our control. It's not just resistance, Silas. It's evolution." Silas paused, his hand still hovering over the console, his mind still racing. Evolution? But we thought this would help. Humanity was supposed to be brought into line to finally bring peace. Nadia shook her head. "No, what you've done is give humanity the power to transcend. To outgrow the serum, to outgrow the Federation, to outgrow all of it." Silas turned away from her, his brow furrowed in thought. Nadia was right. The serum had done something no one had expected. It had unlocked something deep within humanity. It was more than just resistance. It was a new kind of strength. A kind of strength that might change the very course of human history. But there was more. As Silas continued to analyze the data, he discovered something more troubling. The Federation wasn't just interested in controlling humanity anymore. A rogue faction of the Federation had begun to manipulate the Serum for their own purposes. They weren't just using it to pacify rebellious alien species, they were using it to create a new kind of human, one that could be controlled, yes, but also empowered to dominate other species. This rogue faction aimed to create hyper-intelligent, nearly invulnerable humans capable of bending entire civilizations to their will. They saw the Serum as a means to build an authoritarian empire, a new order with humanity at its head. The political situation within the Federation had shifted dramatically. The rogue faction, now growing in influence, was no longer content with merely overseeing galactic peace. They saw an opportunity to use the Serum to shape humanity into something more powerful, more formidable. This group believed that humanity's resistance to the Serum was a sign that they could be molded into a dominant race, a race that would rule over the galaxy. To them, humanity's newfound strength was not a threat, but an opportunity to create an unstoppable force. Silas found himself caught in the crossfire. The rogue faction saw him as a key figure in their plans, believing he could perfect the Serum and make it work on a mass scale. They pushed him to continue his work, to create a Serum that would strip away any remaining resistance in humans, turning them into perfect tools for the Federation's new vision. Silas was disgusted by their motives, but he knew that if he refused, he would likely become their target. The Federation's leadership was watching closely, and they had made it clear that his research was vital to their future plans. Silas felt torn. He had created the Serum with the hope of bringing peace, not domination. But now, the Serum was being used as a weapon. He couldn't deny the truth. Humanity's resistance could be the key to breaking free from the Federation's control. The Serum had shown them something more dangerous than submission. It had shown them their own power. His decision was not clear. He could expose the rogue faction, but doing so would mean betraying his colleagues, his research, and everything he had worked for. Alternatively, he could try to regain control of the Serum, to stop it from falling into the wrong hands, but there was no guarantee that he could succeed. The more he thought about it, the more he realized that he was facing an impossible choice. Maybe this was always going to happen, Silas muttered to himself. Maybe humanity was never meant to be controlled. Nadia, who'd been quietly observing, stepped forward. You've unleashed something, Silas. You've given humanity a chance to evolve, to become something we didn't think they could be. But now the question is, will they use that power for good, or will they become what the Federation fears? Silas stood silently, staring at the data on the screen. The Serum had set something in motion, something that could not be undone. And now, he had to decide what kind of future humanity would have, one where they remained under the Federation's control, or one where they would rise up and claim their own destiny. The complexity of the situation overwhelmed him. He couldn't fix what was broken. The Serum was no longer just a tool. It was a catalyst for something much larger, something far beyond his ability to control. And as the rogue faction within the Federation grew more powerful, Silas realized that the stakes were no longer just about humanity. They were about the future of the entire galaxy. Dr. Silas Ray had never felt more alone. The pressure was mounting from all sides. The Federation, its rogue faction growing bolder with each passing day, demanded results. They wanted the Serum perfected, the resistance neutralized, and humanity subjugated. Nadia Laverne, his closest ally, urged caution, warning him of the dangers ahead, but Silas could no longer ignore the uneasy feeling gnawing at him. Something wasn't right. The more he investigated, the more he realized that the truth behind his Serum and its unexpected effect on humanity was far deeper than he could have imagined. It happened one quiet evening when Silas was poring over old Federation archives, looking for any clue that could explain them. Erratic behavior of his human test subjects. He had already learned that the Serum's effects were mutating in unpredictable ways, and he feared it could lead to catastrophic consequences. As he scrolled through records, he stumbled upon something strange, an entry buried deep within the archives, labeled with a code he had never seen before. His fingers froze on the holo keyboard as the information appeared on the screen. The research, it seemed, wasn't entirely of Federation origin. The serum itself had a history, a much darker history. A history that traced back thousands of years, long before the Federation had even begun its work. The name that appeared on the screen nearly made him gasp. The Thal. The ancient alien race had seeded their technology into the Federation's research centuries ago, quietly shaping the course of galactic history. They were the architects of the serum, the ones who had introduced it into the galaxy's scientific community under the guise of peace and unification. But Silas now understood the full extent of their manipulation. The Thal, he learned, were an ancient, highly advanced race whose influence stretched across countless civilizations. They had used the serum as a tool to control and elevate species, driving them to the brink of becoming powerful enough to help the Thal create a new intergalactic order, one where the Tel would reign supreme. These beings, capable of altering entire civilizations, had long been pulling the strings behind galactic politics, shaping the destinies of species without them ever knowing. And now, Silas realized humanity was not just a test subject. They were a pivotal part of this ancient scheme. The serum was never intended to empower. It was never meant to liberate. The Thal's plan was to subjugate and mold every species they encountered into a weapon to serve their vision of universal dominance. The unintended resistance in humans, something the Thal had never anticipated, was now a force that threatened to undo centuries of manipulation. Humanity was breaking the serum's influence, resisting the mind control and using the serum's enhancement to grow stronger, more capable, and ultimately more independent. Silas's mind reeled as the full weight of the revelation hit him. The serum wasn't a mere Federation tool. It was a part of a much larger, hidden agenda. The Federation, despite its control of galactic affairs, was just another pawn in the Thal's game. And humanity, the species Silas had once thought of as a simple test subject, was emerging as the greatest threat to the Thal's reign. In a flash of clarity, Silas understood what had happened. The serum, designed to suppress human autonomy, had instead ignited the very traits that made humanity unpredictable, capable of rebellion, and most importantly, resistant to domination. It wasn't just a mistake, it was an anomaly that had turned the tide against the Thal's influence. What the Thal had hoped would be a tool of control had, ironically, become humanity's path to freedom. But this newfound strength came with a cost. Silas now understood the danger of his invention. If humanity learned the full extent of the serum's effects, if they realized the extent of the Thal's manipulation, it could lead to more than just a revolution. It could mean the destruction of an ancient power that had held sway over the galaxy for centuries. Silas knew he couldn't let this truth remain buried. He couldn't allow the Thal to continue their subtle domination, nor could he let the rogue Federation diplomats exploit humanity's resistance for their own political power. The serum needed to be destroyed, and the truth exposed. He immediately contacted Nadia, hoping she could help him put a plan into motion. The stakes were higher than ever. The Federation would never allow him to destroy their weapon. The rogue faction, already maneuvering for control, would stop at nothing to secure the serum for their vision of a human-dominated galaxy. But Silas had come to a conclusion: he couldn't let humanity be another pawn in the hands of the Thal, nor could he allow the Federation to turn them into tools of oppression. Nadia arrived at his lab, concern written across her face. She had sensed the change in him, but even she wasn't prepared for what Silas was about to reveal. As he explained what he had uncovered, her expression shifted from disbelief to shock. "The Thal, they've been controlling us all this time?" Nadia asked quietly, her voice trembling with the weight of the revelation. "Yes," Silas replied. The serum was never about peace. It was about control, about elevating species to the point where they could serve the Thal's will. Humanity's resistance to the serum is the one thing they never predicted. Now, it's up to us to stop them. Nadia was silent for a moment, her mind racing as she processed the new reality. "What do we do now?" "I'm going public," Silas said with conviction. "I'll expose the truth. I'll destroy the serum, and I'll tell the galaxy what the Thal have been doing." Nadia nodded slowly. "You know that means war, right? The Federation won't let you go." The rogue faction will stop at nothing to silence you." "I know," Silas replied. "But humanity deserves to know the truth. They deserve the chance to fight for their own future, free from the tale's influence." But as Silas prepared to make his move, he realized how much was at stake. The rogue faction within the Federation, seeing their carefully laid plans unravel, was already mobilizing. They would do anything to seize control of the Serum, and with it, the power to rewrite the fate of the galaxy. They would use every resource at their disposal to track him down and stop him. Silas's mind raced. The Federation, the rogue diplomats, the Thal, it was all too much. Was he simply a pawn in a game he couldn't understand? Or was humanity truly capable of taking control of its own destiny? He couldn't afford to doubt now. His decision had been made. ASE prepared to expose the truth. He knew that nothing would ever be the same again. The galaxy would change. Humanity would change. And Dr. Silas Ray would have to face the consequences of his actions, no matter how devastating they might be. The great shift had begun. Silas Ray stood in the heart of the Federation's Central Command, the holoscreens flickering in front of him, showing the inevitable chaos he had set in motion. The truth was out. The Serum's true origins, the Tael, their manipulation, and the Federation's complicity had been exposed. But the Federation had responded with violence, launching their most potent weapon, an army of superpowered, mind-controlled humans, enhanced by the Serum in its most advanced form. Silas had hoped to be the catalyst for change, to free humanity from the hidden chains the Thal had forged. But now, as he faced the very people he had once worked with, he was caught between two terrifying realities. The human race, still vulnerable to the Serum's effects, was spiraling toward an irreversible evolution. And in his struggle to expose the truth, he had become an enemy of those he had once trusted, his colleagues, his government, and the very Federation he had once believed was capable of leading the galaxy into peace. The Federation's response was swift and brutal. They had harnessed the Serum, evolving it into a new form, one that did not merely control the mind but reshaped consciousness itself. The enhanced humans sent after Silas were no longer simple puppets. They were beings of extraordinary strength, intellect, and power, each one capable of bending the universe to their will, driven by a singular purpose: to stop him at all costs. As he fought against them, Silas couldn't help but feel the weight of what he had unleashed. The Serum, once just a means of controlling minds, was now an unstoppable force, a tool that evolved beyond its original design. It no longer controlled thoughts, it reshaped identities. It allowed individuals to transcend their humanity entirely, to evolve into something both terrifying and divine. In his battle against them, he realized that these superpowered humans were no longer his enemies. They were the inevitable product of his own creation, an unintended consequence of his desire to improve upon what had already been done. Silas's mind raced as the thought began to settle within him. This was no longer just about defeating the Federation, or even about stopping the Serum from spreading. This was about humanity itself, and where it was heading. The Serum was only a catalyst, a tool to force evolution, whether they were ready for it or not. He could feel the pulse of energy radiating from the Serum's creations, the tension thick in the air. They were no longer simply humans, not in the way he had known them. They were something else, something new. And yet, they still carried the human essence within them, twisted and reshaped by the Serum. The battle raged on, and Silas realized he was reaching a breaking point. His options had narrowed down to two. He could use the Serum on himself, become the ultimate force to defeat the Federation's enhanced army and secure control of the galaxy. Or he could let the Serum run its course, allowing humanity to evolve naturally, even if it meant losing control completely. The choice was agonizing. If he took the Serum, he would become everything he had hoped to fight against, an agent of control, an embodiment of the very power he had once sought to eliminate. But there was also the tempting reality that with the Serum, he would be unstoppable. He could end the Federation's reign in an instant, reshape the galaxy to fit his vision. He could lead humanity into a new era, one that was free from the manipulation of the Thal, free from the Federation's iron grip. But was that the right choice? Silas had always believed that humanity's greatest strength lay in its defiance, its refusal to submit. The serum had proven that. But the question now was whether that defiance would continue to be humanity's saving grace or whether it would become a curse. His mind flashed back to Felix Tanner, the first test subject. Felix had fought for his freedom, but now Silas saw that freedom was not just about rejecting control. It was about choosing how to evolve. It wasn't the serum that was dangerous, Silas realized. It was what humanity chose to do with it. If he used the serum on himself, he would become another part of the problem, a part of the system that would create a new order through sheer power. If he allowed humanity to evolve naturally, the serum's effects would spread, and the shift would be irreversible. Humanity would either rise to transcendence, or it would collapse under its own weight. As Silas prepared for his final decision, he understood that the serum had already begun its work. It had already unleashed something in humanity that could not be undone. The resistance to control, the drive for self-determination, had already shaped the future. The question was no longer about control. It was about evolution. With a final, desperate breath, Silas made his choice. He reached for the serum, holding the vile creation of his own hands in front of him. He had made it, after all. The future of humanity was in his hands. But as his fingers hovered over the vial, Silas hesitated. He knew what it meant to take the serum, to wield its power. But he also knew the cost. The price would be more than just his own humanity. It would be the soul of the human race itself. Silas crushed the vial beneath his heel, destroying the serum once and for all. The explosion of energy was immediate and overwhelming. The force of it rippled through the facility, reverberating outward, cascading across the galaxy. The wave of energy was unlike anything Silas had ever felt. It was a signal, a beacon, a rupture in the very fabric of reality. The serum had been destroyed, but its effects, its legacy, were far from over. Humanity was changing. The serum had done its work, but it had gone far beyond what anyone, even the Thel, had expected. Humanity was now no longer bound by the limitations of its biology. The shift was complete. Silas's heart sank as he realized what this meant. The Federation's empire began to crumble. The rogue faction fell apart as their greatest weapon, the serum, was destroyed. But in the wake of this collapse, Silas was left to wonder, what had he unleashed? Humanity had evolved, but to what end? What did it mean to be human when the essence of humanity had transcended its biology? Were they still the species he had known, or had they become something else, something new, something dangerous? Silas stood alone, the weight of the galaxy's future pressing down on him. He had fought for freedom, for autonomy, but now he couldn't help but question the price of that freedom. Was humanity's evolution the next step in their journey, or had they crossed a line from which there was no return? As the stars outside the facility began to fade, Silas's mind wandered to the future, one that was no longer predictable, no longer bound by the limitations of the past. And with that uncertainty, he asked himself the final question: what comes after the fall of civilization, when humanity has evolved into something unknown, yet undeniably powerful?